This is this is a PowerPoint that will explain everything you need to know about the Pythagorean theorem by Ramzy alseidi. The objectives of this PowerPoint is for students to solve an equation using the Pythagorean theorem. Students will also learn how to recognize a right triangle and where to locate the hypotenuse. Pythagoras. Pythagoras is often referred to as the first pure mathematician. He was born on the island of Samos, Greece in 569 BC. Various writings place his death between 500 BC and 475 BC in Italy. Pythagoras was well educated. He was very interested in mathematics. We remember him today mainly for his equation relating the lengths of legs and right triangle to the length of the hypotenuse. The Pythagorean theorem, also called the Pythagorean property, says that the sum of the squares of the length of the legs of any right triangle is equal to the square of the length of the hypotenuse. The equation of the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 90-degree angles. A right triangle is an internal angle which is equal to 90 degrees. A right angle can be in any orientation or rotation as long as the internal angle is 90 degrees. Note, the special box, like the symbol in the angle, is what makes the triangle a right triangle. This here is the box that makes any triangle a right angle. And when you have a triangle like this one right here, is the only way you can solve a Pythagorean problem. Legs and hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the largest side in a right triangle and is always opposite to the right angle. Only right triangles have an hypotenuse, and any triangle that does not have a hypotenuse cannot be solved with the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, the other two sides of the triangles are referred to as legs. In mathematics, a square number or perfect square is the product of some number with itself. For example, 4 is a square number, since it can be written as 2 times 2 equals 2 square root of 2. The formula. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. When a equals 2, b equals 4, the equation will make 2 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. This is the only way that you can find c squared. And as you can see here, it does not matter where you put the 4 and the 2. You can change them in any sides as long as they are on the same side of the equation. And the c is always on the opposite side of these two numbers. The Pythagorean theorem formula is, as we said before, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. On this right angle, we have the sides labeled and we will plug them in according to the formula, like we did before. Example, find the length of the hypotenuse if the lengths of the legs are 5 and 12. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. You can plug the 5 and the 12 in either a or b. And what will we do now? Okay, so we're going to be using x instead of c in this part of the equation right here. So x squared equals 5 squared plus 12 squared. X squared equals 25 plus 144. X squared equals 169 because 25 and 144 equal 169. But remember that 169 is not going to be the answer because you cannot leave x squared or basically c squared to equal 169. To take off the squared of the x, you have to square root both sides of the equations. Now, when you square root x, it automatically eliminates the square, And when you square root 169, it equals 13. And so the answer of x squared equals 5 squared plus 12 squared is x equals 13. Real life examples. C squared equals a squared plus b squared. Now, to find this angle right here, the hypotenuse, which is C here or here in any triangle. Although we cannot do this one because we do not know if it is a right angle or not, because it does not have the box in the corner of the legs. Now, C is going to be the hypotenuse on this angle right here. These are the two legs. Leg number 1, leg number 2. This can be A, and this can be B. Adding these together will equal C squared. Now, let's say this is A in this case, and A here equals 3, and B here equals 4. And we want to find C, which is right here. Okay. We added them together, as we can see here, and squared, they become C squared equals 9 plus 16. C squared then equals 25. Now, don't forget to square root it. So when we square root both sides of the equation, we come with C equals 5. Checking for understanding. Like I said before, the only way to know if a triangle is a right triangle, which can only be used in the Pythagorean theorem, you have to identify which triangle has this box in the corner of the two legs. Now, the only ones we have here that can be used for the Pythagorean theorem is example A, example E, and example F. Now, you might say that example B also looks like a right angle. But don't forget that in any equations or any triangles you see, that all the triangles on the bottom of it say is not drawn to scale. So always remember, if it does not have a square in the corner of the two legs, it is not a right triangle, unless given by further instructions. The use of the Pythagorean theorem formula. Now we know how to find which triangles are right triangles, the legs and the hypotenuse of, and how to plug in the numbers given in the formula. So let's put the formula to work. Solve for C. We will work out this problem together. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. That's the first thing you ever put to start solving the Pythagorean theorem, of course. So we know that 3 is one side of the leg, and 4 is another leg. To find C, all we do is plug in 3 as A or 4 as A, does not matter, as long as 4 and 3 are on the same side of the equation. Okay, now A squared will be 9, and B squared will be 16. Adding those together, and square rooting it will end up equaling C. Solve for C. We will work out this problem together. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now, this is the same equation we just did before, but here they're going to show you the steps of doing so. So 3 squared plus 4 squared equals C squared. 3 squared makes 9 squared, 4 squared makes 16 squared, C squared may equal, and C squared, just move it right down. So 25 equals C squared. Don't forget that you always have to also square root it, and by square rooting it, you don't only square one side, you square root both sides of the equation. We end up with 5 equals C. Check your answer. Plug in all the given numbers into the formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Plugging in A as 3, B as 4, and C as 5, because that was our answer from the slide before. Now, one side of the equal sign and the other side of the equal sign both have to equal the same number to know that your answer is right. In this case, 25 equals 25. And now you know that now we know the Pythagorean problem for this, and the length of the hypotenuse is 5. Worksheet. Solve for A, B, or C. In number 1, you will have to solve for C, the same case as what we did in the other two equations we solved together. Number 2, also the same thing, finding the hypotenuse. Number 3, the hypotenuse will be 13 and one leg will be 12. Now you solve the same way. You solve the same way, except before leaving C blank, you just fill C in with 13 and solve for A. Remember that when you solve for A or B, you must move all numbers to one side and leave C by itself to solve the missing side. Thank you very much. I hope this helped you very much, and this voice was by Abdel Jabbar.